Hello students! Earlier in this chapter, we understood about various life processes like nutrition, digestion, respiration and circulation. When we studied all these processes, we understood that there is some kind of waste which is produced in the body, like gaseous waste, which is eliminated by exhalation. We have undigested food or unwanted food which is present, which has to be eliminated, and this is eliminated by Egestion process. Similarly, we have production of metabolic and nitrogenous waste which has to be eliminated from the body. For this, we have a process called as excretion. Now, there are multiple organisms, could be unicellular or multicellular. Now, different organisms show different methods of elimination. If we take a unicellular form, they show simple diffusion of the waste, whereas complex organisms have designated organs and organ systems which help in the elimination of the excretory waste. Plants also exhibit different mechanisms for elimination of excretory waste. They also produce nitrogenous waste and they have mechanisms to eliminate those wastes. To understand excretion, let us talk about the human excretory system. So if we see, here there is presence of the excretory organs, a single pair of kidney, and from the kidney we see that there is a single ureter which is extending into the urinary bladder, and urinary bladder is extending out through the urethra. So this is how we will see the alignment of the human excretory system. And now, talking about the positioning of the kidneys, if we see the right kidney, it's pushed downwards because there has to be accommodation of the liver, whereas the left kidney is present in the normal position. So this is how we will see the presence of kidney position. Let us understand the positioning of kidney. Now it is present behind, and each kidney is present adjacent to the vertebral column. And on each of the kidney there is presence of an adrenal gland. So we have one pair of adrenal glands present on each of the kidney. We said that from each of the kidney there is arising of a ureter. So the point from where we see that there is arising of the ureter and also there is supply of your blood is called as hilum. And the center of the kidney from where there is a connection between the ureters and the kidney is called as pelvic region of the kidney. Now these ureters will lead and open into the urinary bladder. And urinary bladder has a thin tube-like arising which is coming out called as urethra. And the opening of urethra is called as urethral orifice. We said that kidney is the excretory organ responsible to eliminate the nitrogenous waste. We need to understand how this nitrogenous waste is received by the kidney. For this, let us talk about the circulation part. Now in circulation, what did we understand? We said that the body will utilize the oxygen and use this oxygen for metabolic activity to release the nitrogenous waste. So this nitrogenous waste is collected into the deoxygenated blood, it is carried to the heart, then again it is sent to the lungs for oxygenation. And then this oxygenated blood with the nitrogenous waste is pumped to each part of the body where it is specifically collected by the kidney through the renal artery. So there is filtration of blood and elimination of the nitrogenous waste in the kidney, and the deoxygenated blood, which is without any nitrogenous waste, is pumped back to the heart through the renal vein. So in this process we see that there is elimination of the nitrogenous waste. Now inside the kidney we see that there is a structural and functional unit which is actually responsible for filtration of your blood. So we have many units present called as nephron. Now this nephron is responsible to filter and reabsorb the nutrients so that there is only specific elimination of the nitrogenous waste. So when there is initial filtration of the blood, the amount of initial filtrate is almost about 180 liters per day. But do we eliminate such high amounts of urine? Absolutely not. So we see that there is reabsorption of the nutrients and water and only elimination of the nitrogenous waste. So further, we will talk about the structure of nephron. Now let us talk about the structure of nephron, which is the filtration unit of the kidney. To start with, we have the Bowman's capsule. So if we see this cup-like structure as Bowman's capsule, and inside this we have the tuft of blood capillaries called the glomerulus. And from here we see that the nephron is receiving the blood, and inside the Bowman's capsule there is filtration of the blood. Now this filtration will help in the formation of the initial filtrate, and the initial filtrate will open into the proximal convoluted tubule, which is the coiled structure. So the filtrate which is present in this is showing reabsorption of the nutrients and also water. And then we see that there's movement of the filtrate into the next structure of the nephron, which is like a hairpin loop, and it is called the loop of Henle. So the part which is descending into the deep of kidney is called the descending part, and the part which is again ascending upwards is called the ascending part of loop of Henle. And inside this loop of Henle, we see that there is reabsorption of nutrients and also water. Now, the filtrate will move into the next part of the kidney, which is the distal convoluted tubule. Now, the filtrate can also show reabsorption in distal convoluted tubule. And then we see that the filtrate is collected through the collecting tubules and entering into the collecting duct. Now, this collecting duct which is present here will open into the ureters. So the formation of urine is happening inside the nephron, and the filtrate, when it is entering into the ureters, we call it as urine. The blood is filtered, and we see that there is reabsorption happening in the loop of Henle. Then all the nitrogenous waste is concentrated and eliminated into the collecting tubes, and it is slowly collected into the ureters. So when the filtrate is entering into the ureters, we call it as urine. And this urine is collected through the ureters into the urinary bladder. Now once there is filling of urinary bladder, a person will experience the urge to eliminate this urine. So there is a reflex sent to the brain, because of which there is contraction of the urinary bladder, and hence there is elimination of the urine from the urinary bladder through the urethra, where there is an opening called urethral orifice. Now this process is called micturition or urination. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a person's kidney is not functioning? There would be accumulation of all the nitrogenous waste into the blood. One such important waste which has to be eliminated and which is very toxic is urea. Now when there's accumulation of urea into the blood, this condition is called uremia. So the principal action for treatment in such conditions where there is no functioning or improper functioning of the kidney, they generally take up a procedure where there is presence of artificial kidney, and there is a process done called hemodialysis. In hemodialysis, we see that there is a setup like an artificial kidney. So here, the blood from a person is taken from the radial artery, and it is first cooled down from the body temperature. Then it is infused with an anticoagulant like heparin so that there is no clotting of the blood. Now this blood, which is filled with the nitrogenous waste, is allowed to circulate in a tube which is called as cellophane tube inside a unit called dialyzing unit. Now this cellophane tube will act like a semi-permeable membrane, and the fluid which is present will help in the elimination or diffusion of the nitrogenous waste. So there is simple diffusion because there is high concentration of the urea in blood, and there is absolutely no nitrogenous waste present in the dialyzing fluid. So after there is absorption of all the urea into the fluid, we see that now the purified blood is again allowed to get back to the normal body temperature, and then it is given back to the person through the radial vein. Hemodialysis procedure can help a person if there is at least partial functioning of the kidneys. But if there is complete shutdown of the kidneys, there has to be another way of treatment. Now, one such only way of treatment to completely compensate the loss of kidneys is by kidney transplantation. In this procedure, they take a healthy donor and take the kidney, which is called the graft, and give it to the recipient. So here there are certain tests which are done to match the donor and the recipient. Now, once the graft is inserted into the recipient patient, it is important that the graft is not rejected by the immune system of the body. So, to actually not reject, a person is given medications like cyclosporin, which can suppress the body immunity and accept the graft. So, this is the final aid of treatment when a person is facing any kind of a damage where there is absolute shutdown of the kidneys. Hence, we understood about human excretory system, the process of elimination of the excretory waste from the body, and also we understood what is hemodialysis and kidney transplantation. Moving ahead, let us talk about the process of elimination of wastes in plants. Now, there are different methods of excretion of the waste in plants which are seen. Now, one such method is there is elimination of gaseous waste like oxygen through the photosynthesis process, and also the excess amount of carbon dioxide is eliminated in the night time from the stomatal pores. Now, we see that there is also excess water which has to be eliminated from the plants, and this is by a procedure called as transpiration, where the water is eliminated in the form of water vapor. We see that in plants, they have metabolic activities and protein synthesis happening. Now, this will also release certain amount of nitrogenous waste which has to be eliminated. So, this waste is also stored in the vacuoles. Now, we often see that dried leaves are falling from a tree. Now, this is also an excretory mechanism of the tree. So, there are certain amounts of excretory waste or nitrogenous wastes which are withered away by dried parts of the plants, could be leaves or also the outer bark. Also, there is some amount of nitrogenous waste which is stored in the old xylem. And we see that these wastes are also released into the soil. So, some amount of the waste is eliminated through the soil. Plants also eliminate waste by producing oils and resins. For example, resin is produced by rubber plant and papaya, and there is oil produced by oranges. So, these are the different mechanisms used by plants to eliminate the nitrogenous waste. The biological process to eliminate metabolic and nitrogenous waste from our body is called excretion. Human excretory system consists of one pair of kidneys, one pair of ureters, one urinary bladder and urethra. Nephrons are the filtering units of kidney which help in urine formation. The formed urine is collected into the urinary bladder and eliminated through urethra by a process called micturition. On an average, 1 to 2 liters of urine is eliminated every day. Artificial kidney helps in hemodialysis process. Plants have different mechanisms like transpiration, elimination of wastes into soil, withering of leaves, producing resins and oils for excretion of nitrogenous waste.